China's rapid adoption of fintech is generating profits not only for startups, but also for the companies investing in them. Last year, investment in mainland Chinese and Hong Kong fintech ventures totaled $10.2 billion. That's exceeding North America's $9.2 billion, with numerous domestic financial service and e-commerce conglomerates supporting Chinese fintech startups. Simply put, the Chinese consumer demand is enormous, as you just heard, and it's not being met by traditional financial institutions. To share insights on this subject, please join me in welcoming Scott Galit, Venetia Li, and Tang Ning with Executive Editor of Fortune China, Derek Zhang.
首先感谢
First of all, I would like to thank Tang Ning and Scott for inviting me here to attend this brainstorm technology. So we would like to use English.
all of you here today is that you built your business or partially built your business on the traditional banking system, whereas you solve the long tail of you serve the long tail of clients that traditional banks don't. So they are either too big or too slow to catch up. Could you first share with us very briefly that what makes fintech business and fintech services like yours indispensable in the existing system? Could we start from Scott?
Yeah, sure. We start with a very basic view of how the world is changing, where technology and the internet are making commerce truly global, truly digital, truly interconnected in ways that really didn't exist before. And then you look at a global banking and payment system internationally that really hasn't changed much in a couple of generations. And so what we see is that businesses all over the world are increasingly trying to engage digitally, increasingly trying to sell in new channels and in new places around the world. And the existing infrastructure doesn't really support what they need. So digital commerce needs digital payments. And so what we've looked to do is create a global digital platform that serves businesses the way they need to be served, and then connects back into all the legacy banking and payment infrastructure around the world to make sure that movement of money is interoperable with everything that a business needs anywhere in the world.
Thank you. So Venetia, what's your point of view?
Sure. I think to us, and financials, the accessibility is key. One of our main objectives is to provide equal access to the underserved, the underbanked population in the world. And we're continue to move towards that direction. So right now, according to World Bank, there's like 2 billion users who are underbanked or unbanked. So I think there's a long way to go on how we can serve more people and provide more access to financial services. So currently, Alipay has around 520 million users, active users, and together with our local wallet platforms, across the world, including like Paytm in India, KakaoPay in Korea. We also have True Money in Thailand, and we also formed some new ventures in Indonesia and Philippines. So we have total around 800 million users right now in the world. But looking at the goal of 2 billion, right, there's still a long way to go. So we're definitely working towards the direction to provide equal access.
Okay, thank you. So Ning, you has always been a trailblazer in this business. So what's your thinking?
CreditEase is focused on inclusive finance and wealth management. The way to think about financial inclusion in China is that we still don't have a well-established credit bureau infrastructure. Chinese citizens have no credit scores, so we have a long way to go. Small businesses, consumers, and rural people are very hungry for credit. And the way to think about wealth management, Chinese investors still don't have this idea of long-term investment risk diversification, asset allocation. So we also have a long way to go. So 11 years ago, CreditEase, when we started the company, invented China's peer-to-peer marketplace lending model. About 6 years ago, when mobile internet came, we invented China's first mobile borrowing app so that consumers and the small businesses could borrow real time through their mobile phone. Also about that time frame, we started to teach, to educate the investor population that investment should be about asset allocation, should be about comprehensive wealth management, long-term investment, value investing. So I think that's how we've evolved the business in the past 11 years. And both inclusive finance and the wealth management industries are in their very early stage of development in China. Long way to go.
Okay, thank you. So actually, Scott, you talk about convenience, efficiency, the two big traits, and also your company is famous for. And Venetia and Ning, you talk about accessibility. I think when all these traits are combined together, we see the reason why fintech is becoming indispensable these days. So let's come back to the topic. Let's see, there are competition, and Scott, Venetia, you two are in more or less the same business, although you have different focus. But still, let us start with a little bit provocative question, okay? Suppose you go to compete in the same market, okay, where the winners takes all. And I'm a business owner, and I could be either one of your clients. I have my business needs, my personal needs. So could you convince me with one big problem that you think you can solve for me, whereas the other cannot? Should we start with Venetia this time?
Sure. Well, first, it really depends on what kind of business you're in. But I think a lot of our strong value proposition right now when we're working with merchants globally is to help merchants to reach out to more consumers and serve the consumers better. Just taking marketing as example in Hong Kong, right, which I'm personally in Hong Kong, right? So to a merchant in Hong Kong, right, our value proposition is very strong in the sense that one is we help to bring more Chinese consumers to shop at the merchants, at the retailers. First is enable the preferred way of paying at those shops, so you can bring more consumers and they can be more seamless to be shopping as the retailers, as your merchant, right? But second is also we bring in more traffic. So we are very proud in terms of rather than just viewing as a payment tool, we're also a marketing platform. So we have a lot of access to the different traffic. We have the Alibaba ecosystem. We also have a lot of big data. We understand our consumers, their behavior, what their likes and don't likes, where they are, what they wanted to do, what they likely want to buy, right? And we can help our merchants to promote these kind of products and services to our target consumers and bring those into their shops. So that's a huge value proposition that we can provide with merchants globally.
Good, thank you. Scott?
Yeah, what's great about this question is I think it helps highlight more the differences between our companies. For us, it would be about we help businesses grow exports. We help connect them to an entire world of business-to-business trading opportunities, and very much the way President Xi talked about it earlier this week at the Internet conference, we really see a global digital community that is interconnected. And so we very much work to create 200 countries connected together on a single platform where we can actually support any business of any size anywhere in the world actually growing exports. And again, very similar in the style and approach, we're not about moving money. We're about supporting our customers as they grow. And we do that for exporters. And we have hundreds of thousands of Chinese exporters that we work with. And we help connect them to opportunities in those 200 countries around the world. And we help businesses from outside of China grow their exports into other countries around the world. We do it by connecting them to opportunities, providing them with marketing, support, and services, introducing them to tools and partnerships that are there to help them drive new growth opportunities. And so again, a very similar approach to how we are trying to be customer-centric and help actually be a partner in growth as opposed to just a supplier of payments, more on the B2B side as opposed to on the business-to-consumer side.
Okay, so it seems that each of you have a own focus at this moment. Of course, you cover like 200 more countries and territories, right? And the Alipay is just going, to the non-RMB transaction. Okay, so in the future, it could be some like on one side you can team up to solve the needs for all, right? Okay.
Yes, potentially we can work together and pitch the same client, huh?
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Very much so.
So Ning, I think your business is a little bit different. We know that in China, a lot of lending, P2P lending platforms start with the urban or suburban services. However, on one side, you're a trailblazer, you start the trend, but you goes to, expand access to financing for those farmers and a lot of, underserved territories. So you just started the topic. So could we go a little bit further in explaining in the very beginning why you decided to take the company in that direction?
Actually, when we talk about inclusive finance, online lending, there are two innovation frontiers for today. One is small business lending. The other is rural lending. Small business lending is very challenging globally. In the US, in China, these two fintech leaders haven't really addressed small business lending, as well as in the past 10 years they've done for consumer lending. For example, when we do consumer lending, we talked about like using big data for credit analytics. Our mobile app could get a lot of consumer data, e-commerce data, financial statement data, social security data, so on, to do credit analytics. But for small businesses, it's really challenging, but we are trying. For rural finance, it's even more challenging, but we also see tremendous opportunity. We, several years ago, invented something in China called micro leasing. Leasing used to be for aircraft, so on, very big things. But rural Chinese borrowers need small money for equipment purchase, like a tractor, like a heating machine, so on. Amount is about 300,000 RMB. So we invented this micro leasing model, so they could lease the equipment. After some years, they end up owning it. So we also invented the so-called livestock leasing. So the first item was cow. So Chinese farmers could lease cows from us. So such innovation is tremendously helpful. We started first in Inner Mongolia and the northeast region. There's a lot of need. Then we expanded to whole China. So if you do innovative finance, you do fintech, like in rural China, the tremendous opportunity you see, like micro credit, micro insurance, micro payment, so on. At the same time, it's not easy, so you utilize technology. For example, we have sensor attached to the equipment we lease. So we know where the tractor is, how the heating machine functions, all the data coming back to our central control system, we get to analyze it real time.
Thank you. Actually, your answer, your insights are perfect for, Brainstorm Tech International, right? It's the kind of insight we don't normally, hear very often. But let's go a little bit further, on this topic. Scott, you know that in China, a family business in even the remotest village could be selling products to the other side of the earth. And according to last year's stats, 62% of online retailers in China actually sell on Amazon Marketplace. So what does this mean for cross-border payment companies like Payoneer?
Yeah, it's one of the drivers of change globally is how there are these new intermediaries for how buying and selling happens all over the world. And what we've seen is actually Chinese small businesses have actually been at the forefront of taking advantage of these new global intermediary opportunities. And so really with the development of e-commerce here and platforms domestically that allowed merchants to sell to Chinese consumers, they started to learn very quickly how to leverage digital channels. And so now what we see is in very, very large numbers, businesses of a very wide range of sizes, literally from a small family business in rural China all the way through public companies that are actually quite large that are selling all over the world through these marketplaces. And what happened is consumers all over the world want to buy. They want to buy whatever they have in mind. They want to buy online. They want to buy brands, and they also want to buy cheap things that are kind of the commodities of their day-to-day life. In order to do that, they go online increasingly to marketplaces. And those marketplaces, and it can be Amazon in the US or Europe or Japan, it can be TopBuy in Australia, it can be, there are marketplaces in the Middle East, in Eastern Europe, like Joom. I mean, it's truly a global phenomenon. And Chinese merchants and manufacturers are actually the leaders now at supplying goods to consumers all over the world through these marketplaces. That creates a payment challenge. So now you have a marketplace in Eastern Europe that's taking money in from consumers in their home market and needs to actually remit funds back to the merchant and manufacturer. And you might have a merchant or manufacturer that's selling on 10, 15, 20, or even more marketplaces around the world, as well as selling through distributors in dozens of currencies. And so that's really what Payoneer has done, is we've built this platform across all of these countries, across all of these currencies, so a business can connect to us, and they cover the entire world across all the marketplaces and all the countries that they want to sell into. Whether they be a sole proprietor in rural China, running a small family business, or a multi-million-dollar public company in Shanghai, we're here to support really any business wherever they're selling anywhere in the world.
Thank you. So Venetia, let's go from China to the outside world. Under your leadership in May this year, Alipay launched in Hong Kong its first app to handle non-RMB transactions. How is it going?
Yes. So yes, Alipay Hong Kong is the first non-RMB mobile wallet that we launched, under the name of Alipay. So yes, we obtained the SVF license in Hong Kong last year, and that's how we're also following through that, and we launched our local services in the market. It's going very well so far. I think one is, of course, riding on the huge population who's been actively buying on Taobao in the Hong Kong market. So we have more than 2 million Taobao users, so that was really helped to the initial boost of the Alipay Hong Kong adoption. And then secondly is also, I think we're riding on the good acceptance we've already built in the market. So in Hong Kong, we've been building the merchant acceptance in the last 2 years. So now it's more than 10,000 shops already accepting Alipay. So that really helps, because I think at the end, driving a mobile adoption, you also need to have enough scenarios. Otherwise, you give them incentive, there's no place to use, right? So I think so far with the online and offline, we're also building the in-app scenarios. So in the latest edition, so the two killers in scenarios are built in is we're starting to build in utility payments. So in Hong Kong, in a Hong Kong Alipay app, you can start paying for the Hong Kong electric bill. So I think this is also a very fundamental, because we have got a lot of user feedback that utility payments is a very frequent usage. And second is also we've been collaborating with the Hutchinson Group. So we've launched the first loyalty programs tied in. So Money Back is a very popular loyalty program in Hong Kong, where you earn loyalty points in Park and Shop and Watsons. So we just recently, December 1st, is when we launched an integration between a loyalty program with the Alipay Hong Kong app. So you can pay and earn points. So I think these are the things we'll continue to build in the market to drive the local usage and adoption.
Okay, thank you very much. So let us move to the discussion of some management challenge and this is where we normally will witness the wisdom of the CEOs, right? So Ms. Tang, you actually have the traits of a Wall Street investment banker, but we know you, we know the geek side of you. For example, the AI algorithm that works for your robo-advisor will also be used in your company's IT maintenance. But we know that finance and IT are two very different disciplines. So how do you make it work? Could you explain to the audience something called a team of two in your company?
Actually, Fintech is integrated innovation. It's about a combination of finance acumen, finance skills, and technology, internet, big data, AI skills, capabilities. And the two groups of people are kind of from different planets. Yeah, so we have the story at the company, internet people, like tech people, move very fast. If they have an idea, they just jump onto it immediately. Yeah, so one time, we discussed a new product idea, finance product, and some new team members on the tech side would like to just redo the coding immediately. Yeah, so our finance people were shocked. Yeah, so at the banks, it would take a long discussion and some trial for several months, right? Like before this is put into production. So I think the technology people should actually learn how finance works. And finance people should learn how technology, new technology work, and particularly how client-oriented experiences really work. So how to make these two group of people work together very effectively. So we do this so-called team of two. So both teams are responsible for one single objective, and we let them teach each other. So it's not like the old way, you give me a kind of a job, right? Like I do for a while and pass it on to you. No, so we jointly be responsible for a goal, and you need to teach me finance. I teach you technology. I become the level 2 expert in your field. You become a level 2 expert in my field. So that way we become very knowledgeable about each other. So you often find that communication effectiveness is not very good at a company just because people don't understand each other. Mm-hmm. There's no a right level of appreciation. Once you do this kind of a team of two, people really teach the other side, then both of them grow and become an expert in the other's field. Then we see more effective collaboration and a higher level of workplace satisfaction.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing. Venetia, I originally want to ask you a question about female leadership because we know it's a male-dominated industry. However, I may have to rephrase this question, not only because just now in the first competition, the first category, we have a female winner, which happens to be the Fintech category. It's also because in Ant Financial, we know you have female leadership from very top down, like yourself, like Ms. Penley. So could you share with us what it feels like to be a female disruptor in a kind of male business?
I think it's a very actually good combination. I felt like I think in the how is it male and female are very different, but I think generally we see that male is a bit more functional. It's like, hey, it works. This is a product. These are capabilities. Women, we tend to be a bit more feel like, hey, does it feel right? I buy something because I just like it, right? And more our consumers are also a variety. And also in the new world, I think the consumers are also kind of looking at the experience, not just functionally, right? So I felt like having both male and female in the company and driving the business directions and our product and the experience is important because that's how our consumers, our customers are sort of expecting it now. So I felt like that's a very good combination of having the two genders, right, and making a lot of these decisions. But I think in general, at this point, I think for me personally, as a female leader, obviously one of the biggest challenge I have is to continue to kind of balance this family work versus the work life. So the new technology also helps me to manage this effectively. Like, for example, like, I have a daughter that's 9-year-old. So there's huge demand, there's huge pressure at work, but I still need to manage, and help with the schoolwork, right? So what I do is every night at around 6 or 7, she WhatsApp me her homework. While I'm in the office, I can help check and give her a response right away through WhatsApp, right? Okay. So even though I'm not in personally with her, I can still help her with the homework, right? So I think the new technology helps me to sort of balance this a little bit.
Okay, thank you very much. So Scott, one of the very unique things with your company is that you have one leadership, one team, one product. However, you face 200 markets. You face like regulators from 200 different countries. So how do you manage this kind of challenge? I mean, it's so difficult.
Yeah, so a couple things. One, start with a team that's over, our management team and our company is over half women, and so we actually very much value having a diverse global team to actually really be able to address challenges, and in much the way Ning talked about as well, we very much think of ourselves as being one half Silicon Valley technology company and one half regulated financial institution. And everything we do, we try to think really from the beginning. If we were building a bank today and we wanted to be customer centric, how would we build it? We certainly would build it with a technology as the front of what we do, but how would we actually kind of start all of our products, all of our processes, and design them in a way that they can enable us to be fast and flexible and iterative and responsive to the needs of our customers on one side and regulators and banks and compliance and risk requirements on the other. And so it really is about building a culture where from the beginning, everybody understands that they're in the customer service business, and everybody understands that they're in the compliance business. And so when a salesperson loses an opportunity because our compliance team recognizes that it is not the right opportunity for us to pursue, the sales team understands why, and they're supportive. And on the other side, when our compliance team comes to work, they understand that they're in the problem-solving business just the way our sales, our product, and our marketing people are. And so it's really building that on a global basis, which is quite challenging, but we do fun things. We just hosted something that we call it a Globathon, where we literally brought almost everybody from we have about 1,000 people all over the world. We brought everybody from the whole world together in one place for a week of meetings together to actually understand more about what everybody's doing, and then a couple of days of a lot of fun to try to actually share in the success and the joy of being together. And so it's really about building that culture and a global team that understands together the responsibility to be compliant as well as the responsibility to serve customers, and try to build that from the beginning.
Okay, thank you very much. We have like 1 more minute left. I think this year when we talk about fintech, we cannot really escape the topic of blockchain, okay? However, we notice that blockchain is going beyond the boundary of financial sector. It's like being used in creating a voting system or tracking food source. So as the CEOs, how do you face the classic question, will you stick to your core business, or will you try to go to those uncharted territories? I mean, since we have very few time left, just conclude with 1 or 2 sentences, okay? Yes or no, and why?
So we certainly pay attention to blockchain and Bitcoin. As of now, we've stayed on the sidelines. It's something that we interact and we have an API that we use to connect to any payment system anywhere in the world of any kind. And so if it becomes relevant for our business, we will actually integrate and leverage it. But as of now, We see it as something that's still very much developing, either behind the scenes on infrastructure or more as an asset class that seems to be taking hold in certain places.
Thank you. Venetia?
Yeah, so we have also have done a lot of, we'll have a team doing a lot of research and development in various different technologies, and blockchain is definitely one of the technologies we have people doing research on. But I think in general, overall, we also are building a technology open ecosystem. So we're building an open ecosystem. We foster connections with our different ecosystem partners to provide different type of services in different industries.
Okay, Ning?
We have pilot projects
Right.
at the company utilizing blockchain. Yeah, we also make investment into blockchain companies.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you all, and look forward to more brainstorming in the future, and as well as your new success stories. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We are